Welcome to my channel where we question everything. Today's subject is propaganda and psychops. Now, it's a it's not a difficult subject and so on, but there are actually two sides to this conflict, the Russian side and the Western side or Ukrainian side. And the Russians are constantly being accused of doing propaganda and Russian bots and I don't know what else you want to call them. But I'm sorry, what Russian propaganda are you talking about? Because I cannot find anything. What I can find is Russian, written in Russian, and sorry, I don't speak Russian, and neither does the Western people or the people in the West speak Russian. So I am not totally sure what type of propaganda the Russians are putting out that the Western people can really read and understand. So yes, there was RT and Sputnik. Well, both of them have actually been banned in the West. I've been still following RT because it gives you a little bit of perspective of the other side. But RT is towing the line and still hopes that they will be one day allowed again into the West, which I can tell you straightforward now, forget it, RT. You're not ever going to go back to the West. This is a long-term ban. Might as well go change your name and try a different approach. In any case, but what I do understand is on the Western side, you got those huge media in America and in the West. And in America, it is being controlled by whoever decides on the narrative, the people higher up that control basically everything in the West, even the government. And I'm sure there are similar people in Europe that are owning the European news media and tell them what to say. And if they don't physically control the media, then they have a very, very strong tool or a weapon, if you really want to know. And that is, if you don't support Ukraine, and if you don't support what I'm telling you is the truth, then you are a Putin supporter and a Putin proponent. Now let's make it very clear that anybody that ever would have a discussion with me and have an argument or anything, and then he's being totally destroyed in the argument and then he starts calling you names, has lost that argument and should actually be disrespected because he doesn't know what he's talking about, and the only remaining thing for him to do is calling you names. So please, people, anybody that goes and tells you, but you are like this and you are that and you are a Nazi and you are what's the name, Putin supporter of propaganda, those guys should be dismissed immediately. It's like there was once a movie called Demi Moore was still playing as a soldier. I don't remember that movie. She wanted to join the Marines. And in any case, so at one stage, the one officer wanted to rape her, and then everybody, the whole platoon turned their back on them. This is what should be done with these people. People that revert to name calling instead of motivating and arguing or making their arguments. Turn their back on them. But in any case, so I thought we're going to have a little bit of fun, and I will discuss some articles and just point out the ridiculousness of these things. And well, I will start with an article that was posted by Larry Johnson. He has always good articles and makes some fantastic points. In any case, the ending of this one is Putin and his army are on the ropes again. And apparently this one was made by George Barros. And the article that he was actually referring is that the heading of that one was called "The Army Putin Spent 2 Decades Building Has Been Largely Destroyed in Ukraine, and Russia's strategic defeat could threaten his regime." Now this guy is supposed to be a military analyst. And okay, Larry actually looks up this guy's credential, and basically he's nothing. He's not really a military analyst or has any experience in this matter. But, you know, so this guy brings out that, well, I'm going to leave a link to the article so you can read it yourself. But basically, Putin's army is gone. It has been destroyed. He has to rebuild it. Nothing is working. It's just losing the fight in Ukraine. Now, come on. Even the Western media tells you that the Ukrainians are retreating, the Russians are constantly advancing, except for the the one offense in Kharkiv, which is in any case a shadow boxing type of exercise. They will be returned, and they will lose that area again because they cannot hold it. They don't have the necessary manpower or support structure or logistics, or whatever you want to call them. Just a matter of time. So, how does this guy actually get even asked to write an article? But in any case, just look at, on RT there was an article about John Kirby, the guy in a White House briefings. And he was actually saying that the Russian army is still strong and one shouldn't go and underestimate them. And these guys are in the government, and surely you really must know. And the evidence on the ground says so. So how does this George Barras call himself a military analyst? That guy should be fired, and his credentials should be, if he has a degree, those degrees must be stripped. That's it. Because he doesn't know what he's really talking about. So then I would like to go, well, I'm going to go to a couple of articles, but just want to show you an RT as well. So there's an article on RT that just says that the record number of Chinese chip firms go bust. Media. So according to a report by the South China Morning Post, there are about, let me see, 3,470 entities that use the Chinese word for chip in their registered names, brands, or operation have deregistered in the reporting period, which is about a year. Remember, it's 3,470 because they have the name chip in their name. This number surpasses the 3,420. That's only 50 less. No? That closed in 2021. And in 2020, only 1,397 chip-making firms shut their doors. So what you are actually saying, in 2020, 1,400 companies closed their doors. In 2021, 3,420 companies closed their doors. And in 2022, 3,470 companies closed the door. This is catastrophically, according to the article. But then, just the next paragraph, it says that in the period between 2020 and 2021, 70,000 new chip companies sprung up in the country. 70,000. So how can it be catastrophic if the total number of companies is 7,500, which is about 10% of the companies have folded within the first 2 years? Only 10%. Usually it is the other way around. 10% of all new companies fold usually in the first 3 years. Not 10% fail. 90% fail and 10% usually make it. That's a rule of thumb when it comes to entrepreneurship and opening new companies. Alright, so that was the one article. And then I followed that article that Larry Johnson was actually referring to, and got on this beautiful website. It's called newsbreak.com. Right. I got this article about the army Putin spent 2 decades building has been largely destroyed. Yeah, got that one. Oh, he discusses, boy, I can spend an hour and dissect the whole article, but what's the point? What I would like to point out is that the last sentence, the last paragraph, just what I like to sort of read. I wouldn't write off Putin now. A lot of people, including me, have been predicting he's going to have to leave power and his demise is imminent. But he does have a lot of strength. The main strength being that he's eliminated any possible reputable alternative to him. And so what he's actually doing, he made all those accusations in the whole article, and then he covers his backside by, listen here, whatever I predicted, that's doesn't have to be true because you never know. But if I'm proven wrong, it's not because I was wrong in the article, it's just that I was wrong in my final. Putin is too strong, he's just too stable. The point I'm trying to make here is that you have to read an article and you have to remember what was said in a paragraph or two before. And actually my first video that I ever made, I talked about that you got to listen to one person say, not think what a person say, and it also applies to the written word. So you got to read what stands there and understand what you are saying and remember what you read, and don't put your words there that you think you are reading. But I'll make my point. But in any case, so you got a couple of comment sections, and then you got recommended other articles. And the funny thing is actually that it tells you where it comes from. So will take the first recommended article. It comes from the Business Insider. Putin tells Modi he'll stop the Ukraine invasion he ordered as soon as possible after the Indian leader criticized Russia's war to his face. I'm not going to read even the article. The joke is in the heading. Now we'll read another one. Putin mocks the West, says Russia is gaining from the Ukrainian conflict and will press on. Wildstein. Russian teachers have reportedly been asked, Business Insider. The previous one was, where was that? NBC News. So we have another article about Business Insider. Russian teachers have reportedly been asked to give up part of their salary and donate it to Russian soldiers invading Ukraine. What? Isn't the Russian economy making, or the Russia making huge profits by selling less gas at higher prices and making the government is actually floating and swimming in money? So why would the teachers actually be asked to do such a stupid thing? It doesn't even happen in the West. I don't know. Another Putin ally dead after suffocating on business trip. That's the Daily Beast. I'm not going to go in there. Russian mercenaries helping Putin fight his war in Ukraine appear to have also killed hundreds of African civilians, a report says. So, as far as I know, that only Russian mercenaries that there are in Mali, and they were contracted by that government. And before the mercenaries actually were there, the French were there. And the French were actually helping the Mali government. But for some or other reason, the Mali government chased them away. They didn't want the French anymore. And do you really think that, well, while the French were there for a year or 2 years or a little bit more maybe, they didn't kill any civilian people? What's the purpose in any case there? Why are these mercenaries there? Well, they are to protect and help Mali. And who is to say who's a terrorist and who's a civilian? No, come on. Yeah. But this is totally just to blame Putin and put him in a bad light. This is typical propaganda technique. It's funny. Yeah, Putin, President Insider. Putin is suffering legitimate humiliation after misjudging the West's willingness to get involved in Ukraine war, Russian expert says. You know, you can watch all the videos about this, the recent SCO and other events that Putin has attended to, and I'm sorry to say, but in most of them he looks like a very confident person, and everybody's talking to him, and all the leaders of the non-Western world are actually talking to him and having discussions and they want to do business with him, and yeah, there's no sign that he's humiliated. Come on, people. This is just constant bashing, Putin bashing. It's, whether I support Putin or not doesn't really matter. It is there. I'm trying to show you what propaganda is. That's what I'm trying to show. And it's easy, type of recognizable. Well, it's in any case easy for me. The question is, would it be easy for you? I don't know. The next one. The Daily Beast. What happens to Russia after it loses? Does anybody see any evidence that the Russians are losing? I don't know. Oh, wow. What do we got here? That's another. Russian missile strikes within 1,000 feet of Ukrainian nuclear reactor. And all you see is a video of an explosion. And who took it? It must be Ukrainian, because this nuclear reactor is inside Ukrainian held territory. But it doesn't really matter. Who are the Ukrainians to go and blame the Russians in any case? Because they have been bombarding and artillery strikes and whatever on the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, which the Russians were in. And then they had the goal of blaming Russia that they were firing on their own men in order to tell the world, but it's the Ukrainians. I just want to say the technique, and hell, we're an example, and everybody was actually talking about this recently, and that was that the counter-offensive of the Ukrainians in Kherson, that's counter-offensive, they call it. So I will use the same word. They say that in any attack, the best defense is offense. And the Americans have perfected that technique, not in the battlefield, no. In the propaganda field. If you do something and you are being accused, then you counterattack and you blame the other party who's accusing you of the same thing. You can watch it. You can really follow the American history in the last 10, 15 years. They have perfected it. That's why the propaganda is also so good. They had 22 years since 9/11. They had excellent experience and in propaganda. I don't think that anybody really knows it, but I read an article about the first Gulf War, that there are no unauthorized pictures available anywhere in the world. The only pictures you will ever see of the first Gulf War had to be approved by the American Army. That's how strict they were of the embedded. Just for sakes. But in any case. So that was the Daily Beast. Fox News. And that's Afghanistan. It doesn't seem to me there are any funny. Wait. Oh. Yeah. Just keep the right place. Hey. Newsweek. Heading. Russia has no way to replenish critical low missile supply, says the Ukraine Prime Minister. Now, I know, just for instance, I actually joined Twitter. Can you believe it? I hate Twitter because it's so confusing and so on, but I actually joined Twitter to read a little bit more. And then I searched for all Ukrainian channels. And all the information you get is in the West is only Ukrainian, what the Ukrainian military says, what the Ukrainian leadership says, that's the information you get. And they are on the one side of the battle, and you never hear on the other side of the battle. So what type of, we know Zelensky is an actor. And if you look at his speeches, they are brilliantly spoken, and he is being fed the script. He doesn't do it himself. There are some brilliant PR people behind him. And like I said, they control the narrative, firstly. And then when you counter his narrative, they always go and blame, but you are not supporting us, and you are not do this, and like they do with the Germans, German schools and the other labor wars or whatever. So, if I was on the Western side, I had to hear this thing, and like I said, our channel is Question Everything. I would seriously question all information provided by one party only, and especially if it's the Ukrainians. Okay, so. And then we have the nice new article and Newsweek. And it says planes, MLRSs, and 49 tanks, and tracker reveals Ukrainians counter-offensive haul. That means all the equipment that they've captured. Like I said, I'll go and join Twitter, and I joined actually the Ukrainian channel, and there were lots of pictures of destroyed APCs and tanks and all this other stuff that goes with it and so on. But I looked at the pictures, they all more or less look the same. It's not like they totally different. The vegetation was more or less all the same. But that's not the point. You can actually doubt that. But one has to ask you questions. Again, quite a couple of questions. Firstly, when the Ukrainian army first at Izium and in Balaklia, weren't they not first there? And then they were attacked by the Russians, and then they retreated, and the Russians filled that position. And if you look at the pictures, those are all old tanks and rusted tanks and APCs. So I wouldn't be even surprised if those equipment that's being shown are actually the original, initial February versions of the Ukrainian hardware. So that's one can ask the question. And now they're reshowing it and saying it's the Russian version. The problem is that the Russians and the Ukrainians have more or less similar hardware, so it's difficult to distinguish them unless you are an expert on tanks and APCs. You can distinguish maybe the different models, but hell, who has that time? In any case. Then also, so the Russians have T-72s, and I think they're fighting with 290s. Oh yeah, okay, I forgot. Actually, the fighting is being done by the Donbass militia. And in 2014, when they defended themselves against the attack of the Ukrainian army, how did they defend themselves? Now, it's all well known that they got their hardware, their tanks and their APCs from Ukrainian soldiers that actually defected, or what they captured from the Ukrainians, because they defeated the army twice. So a lot of the hardware being used by the Donetsk militia is actually Ukrainian hardware. So that confuses the matter as well. How do you distinguish between them? Then you look at the Russian side and you ask the questions again. So they are mostly using T-72 tanks. I heard they're doing some T-90s, and somewhere, I think in June or so, they took out some T-65s or something like that. I don't know. Well, there was a reason for that. Well, the point here is that these are old tanks, and not all of them have been upgraded. And the question arises, do the Russians still make parts for this stuff? Because these things are like 50 years old or 40 years old. Or, it's a long time ago. And the Russians have built new tanks and developed new tanks and so on. So do they still make the parts for that? So if they don't, I wouldn't. Too old. I'd rather spend the money on new stuff. That's why they're using all the old stuff, just like the West is giving Ukraine all the redundant and absolute weapons system. In any case, so when a tank or an APC that's like 40, 50 years old is broken down, then I, as a mechanic, would do the logical thing. I will strip another APC and use that one as parts for to fix some 5, 10 APC or 10 tanks, and 2 break down or 3 break down, and then I take one of them and take all his parts and put in the other 2, and then I have 9, and there they go, like pirating parts. That would be the obvious point. And if you look at some of the pictures, it's not that they were destroyed, it's like they were derelict wrecks, basically. That's propaganda. But the point here is again that one should think and ask the questions. So that's why, and then we have a nice thing on Business Insider. 2 of Russia's most modern multi-role fighters are leading Putin's air war over Ukraine. And this was one, the most brilliant fighters. I don't know why they would use, unless they would go and test them out. Former Soviet states eye opportunities as Russia struggles in Ukraine. Does anybody know what the Russians' really objective is and what they think? So who says they are really struggling? Only if you know in advance what their purpose is, that I want to go to there and I'm not getting there, then you can tell me, but I'm struggling to get there. But if you don't know where I'm going, then you can't say I'm struggling. Who says I just wanted to go to here? Russian soldier Newsweek. Russian soldier tells dad troops have nowhere to run as Ukraine advances. That's a Russian soldier that during the Kharkiv counter-offensive day, he contacted his dad and said, "Daddy, I cannot run, but I don't know where to run." But this is a professional soldier, no? This is not a conscript. Yeah, the dope quick reads. Children aren't afraid of newly captured tanks during recent Kiev parade mocking Russian past parade plans. Okay, so kids are not afraid, so they're becoming soldier and being exposed to war from an early age. Oh, yeah. USA Today. Zelensky, remember again Ukrainian, says mass grave found near Kharkiv city. Russian troops flee to border as Ukraine firepower thunders. Okay, that's just loud. But anyway, has anybody seen some images of this mass grave? Because the pictures I saw is they all had, it was a graveyard, and they all had crosses, but unfortunately the name was not there was a number on it. That's not a mass grave, that is not an atrocity, which is now being conveyed in the West. Those were unknown people that were buried. And so that is the one thing. But even if you want to question it, were the Ukrainians not in that same area before the Russians came and pulled them out? So who says the Ukrainians initially hasn't killed these people in any case? So yeah, that's already 2 questions, and who will ever know? Okay, Ukrainian army penetrates Russian defenses by over 30 miles in the offensive. If you knew a little bit more, which was accused, which was actually distributed in the Western media as well, when the offense actually started, there were very few Russian soldiers. So it's not a big success. No. It was a sort of a runover. Russia hits Zelensky's hometown with a barrage of missiles. Ukrainian officials says the strikes were revenge for Ukrainian big battle Winfield wins. That's a Business Insider. Seems to me this Business Insider is has a lot of funny articles. Okay, then Reuters, Ukraine shoots down Iranian-made drone used by a Russian defense minister. And then they show you a piece of wing. Not that you can really determine what it is, but it's a piece of wing. You get so many UIVs and they all have different shapes, so I'm not sure how you're going to say that's an Iranian made drone. But even if they have, so what? So what? On Ukraine getting weapons from the West? Yeah, so okay, I would like to make a video about this as well, probably. Pelosi's makes surprise visit to Armenia amid deadly Azerbaijan clashes. Yeah, a video on its own. In any case, I had some fun. This was some laughable headings. You don't even have to go into the detail of that because you're going to just be flooded with the same nonsense. And again, remember, you don't only read one side, you read many sides. You watch news. And you can, more or less, if you are to pay attention, you can ask yourself questions. And you find that it doesn't make sense. Or what they have said 2 paragraphs before, they are actually contradicting in the next paragraph. Like with this chip manufacturer. These are only small examples. I mean, I can sit the whole day and I can take articles and show you the finer details on when you can recognize what is propaganda and what's not propaganda. And the techniques I actually employ. Like I said, the counteroffensive. You blame somebody else for what you are actually doing. Credibility is earned. And it takes a long time to build a credibility. I believe Larry Johnson's, because I've read a lot of his articles, and I cannot find fault with his arguments. Yes, he makes sometimes 1 or 2 mistakes, but those are forgivable. So I trust what he says. It is earned. Not in 1 article, not in 2 articles, many articles. You cannot believe whatever you say. I mean, come on, people. You had 2 years of brainwashing and severe pressure under propaganda. I'm not going to tell you what it was. You know what event I'm talking about. You were daily bombarded by this propaganda. Actually, the little story I can actually tell is my friend, who I would like to introduce, but he's still not coming onto the show. I would actually have a nice discussion with him. He lives in Panama. And then he had a party with some 10, a birthday party of Americans that recently came to Panama, and then he talked to them. And the story he actually told me is that these guys were, in Afrikaans you would say, hartvol. They were fed up with the situation in America. So he asked him, but what was it was? He says, if you switch on the TV, if you watch anything, you'll switch on the radio, it's a constant bashing of the left versus the right, and the right versus the left. And this type of divide. But whatever the reason is, that's not what is important, what I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is the constant bombardment of propaganda. That is what I'm talking about. In any case, that's my story for today. I hope you like it. I just want to finish off again. I will repeat it again. I see some people are watching the videos or starting to watch your videos, but I have no feedback. And the only feedback I can get is if you press the like button or the dislike button. And I don't mind if you press the dislike button, but at least I know there are some people that, and so many people that don't agree with me. Please press or select any one of those 2 buttons. It doesn't take you long. In any case, your hand is on the mouse. Moving a little bit and pressing the click button, and there you go. Doesn't cost you anything, doesn't cost me anything. And only if you want to listen more, then you can subscribe to my channel, and I appreciate that. So, until next time, cheers.